place to be. Catching Dolphins, talking fantasy. From the field to the fan debate. Fins talk today, don't be late. Fins up, we ride until the end. With Bobby talking about the Fins. Podcast popping every week, no delay. Join the crew, Fins talk today. Lively chatting, stats so prime. Miami hustle all the time. News and views will pave the way. Dive on in it, if Fins talk today. Top plays and what went wrong. Breaking down each game so strong. Fans united, feel the beat. Fins talk family, can't be beat. Fins up, we ride until the end. With Bobby talking about the Fins. Podcast popping every week, no delay. Join the crew, Fins talk today. Ends up, we ride until the end. With Bobby talking about the Fins. Podcast popping every week, no delay. Join the crew, Fins talk today.
Happy Monday, Dolphin fans, and welcome to a new episode of Fins Talk Today here on FTSN. I am joined by Curtis of Ace Per Head. Curtis, my man, my brother, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me here today, my man. How are you?
My pleasure, man. My pleasure, brother. My pleasure.
Oh,
man, that's an intro, dude. That whole thing you got your name and a song and everything, man. So pro.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. And I always get a kick out of it, especially when I see Ralphie Boy in there, my stepdad who raised me as a Dolphins fan. He goes right the family beat. He passed away last year, so every time I see him now, it's like, oh, thank you, man. So I just love seeing his video always in there. It kind of gives me a kick, but man, so much to talk about. I mean, you would think, I was like, okay, at least we're gonna talk about the loss and how that impacts the Dolphins, and then Greer gets mutually agreed upon separation, and so I was like, oh, wait a second, it finally happened, but McDaniel's staying, so we'll talk about that. And then the trade happened. There goes Jaelen Phillips this morning for a third rounder. Minka Fitzpatrick could be next. Bradley Chubb could be next. There's rumors that is it Champ Kelly or is it Stephen Ross? And so we're going to get in all of that. But before we do, I just want to get in first that, and forgive me if you have talked about this on your show or on Fins Faithful.
So we do. We say the same thing over and over again.
We
keep talking about it
on 20 different shows and everything else. And shout out to everybody who's just jumping in right now. We appreciate you guys. Do me a favor, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, the like button. If you're watching anywhere other than YouTube, hop on over, hit that subscription button. If you're after the show, hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications bell, and tune into our other shows. We got a lot of programs tonight. We got Fins Talk Today. We have right now on one earlier it started. I think they're still running, but they're doing the Who Killed the Expos reaction show from the documentary. So we have Elon Popert on there, Alex, Evan, Russ Morgan. Then we're going to have On Deck Baseball. And, of course, the Miami Hurricanes later this evening on the channel. So, but let's get to what really matters, and that's the Miami Dolphins. Curtis, it's kind of like crazy, and it's like a tragedy or whatever. You go, where were you on this day? Where were you when you found out that Chris Greer was finally let go as the Miami Dolphins general manager?
Well, and that is a weird thing because the night of the game before he got fired, I had like a huge storm here, and we had the guys cut the lawn like really, really short. And the storm drove this massive ant colony into my office, into my bathroom, and into my bedroom. And I had to kill like thousands of ants leading up to the game. And my family was killing ants as I'm trying to watch the movie, and I'm killing ants. So when we got done with the game, I did my podcast. I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about, man. I just know I'm freaking tired. So I'm like, all right, guys, have a good night. I didn't even answer any comments. I fell asleep. I slept like a baby. I woke up like 11 o'clock the next morning, and I'm like bleary-eyed. I got my big pot of coffee, so I'm like, Greg got fired. What the heck? Whoa, man. I started dancing. I woke up. I was like, whoa, man. It was like a shot of adrenaline. I can't believe this. This guy's been my mortal enemy since 2021 when I started doing this thing, like about a couple months into doing this thing. And it was like, the two songs I said I heard instantly was like Ding Dong, The Witch is Dead, and cool and a Cool in the Gang celebration. It felt so good to say goodbye to that dunce. You know, I don't like to see anybody get fired, but he is such a passive aggressive guy, making fun of fans. He's so snaky. You know, I'm a big Conan fan. I got my Conan stuff. There's the Conan about Barry and James Earl Jones. There's that scene where he shifts into the snake. He's a big snake, and because he's like this evil wizard. And I'm like, that always reminds me of Chris Greer. So I was happy to see this guy go. He is his absolute worst, the kind of GM to have. I mean, I'm sure there might be other GMs out there that are worse, but you never see GMs make fun of the fans. You never see him build this soft. And it's just a constant cover, a constant Teflon thing. Seeing this guy disappear, finally being defeated, it was, I dare say, about as good as it gets after such a crappy string for the Dolphins. So I'm still happy. I'm just so happy we got some level modicum of success to defeat this clown and hope going forward. So that is the deal.
No, you know, I'm with you. Went to, I always said McDaniel for me felt more likely because I wasn't going to hold my breath for Greer because I never trusted that Greer was ever really going to get let go. Yeah. And so I was kind of like, I just let go of that dream. I thought he should have been let go after Flores was fired, just clean house.
Oh,
stuff. Yeah. And then it happened. And I know a lot of people say, oh, the lawsuit, oh, this, all that. And I was just like, I just don't see it. So I'm not going to hold my breath. But when I went to an MRI for my shoulder, so I was in there for 15 minutes in that little tube, chilling in there and, really trying to just think of anything but where I was. Got out of there. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to work. I was going through my phone. It's funny. I was on X just checking, looking at stuff, getting ready for other shows later in the week with other guys, making sure, hey, you guys got your stuff ready, blah, blah, blah. Finally put my phone down, put it face up. Usually I put it face down. I put it face up. And as I'm pulling out of the parking lot of the doctor's office, I see Evans calling me, and it's Finstanza, and a fired up post game the night before. So I was maybe he was calling me to say, hey man, we good? Because we're always good. We just get fired up, and we'll probably get into that in a little bit. And but he goes, all he said was Bobby, and I'm like, wait, stop. What are you talking about? So I go to my phone again, and here comes all the Grizzlies. I'm like, oh, and I sung The Wicked Witch is Dead. And I started going on. And again, yes, I don't want people to get fired, and all that. I get that. But, when somebody's doesn't do a good job at their job, it's business. You got to move on. You got to, and so this to me, yes. Do I think they should clean house? 100%. I get it. I understand people going, oh, they're half-assing again. I get it. One step at a time. We've had 3 coaches with him. He's been here. Now we got rid of him. So to me, hopefully to get it right. And yes, I don't think McDaniel's safe at any point. Not yet. I know people are like, oh, he could be last to this end of the season, or maybe he does play until the end next year. I think let it play to the GM. I think if they lose, they get steamrolled by Buffalo and lose to Marcus Mariota now in the Commanders in Spain. I think we're singing another tune, and we're possibly talking about Mike McDaniel getting bounced as well. But hey, take the reward as you get it. Lo-Fi, I see you in there. Great to see you, Ray, Steve Malloy.
Jarvis, Steve, man.
Jarvis is in the house. The tank, man. He needs to get that opportunity. Jarvis, what's up, my man? Great to see you, brother. But yeah, so just huge news. And of course, Champ Kelly, who they skipped Marvin Allen. Champ Kelly, who was just hired during the offseason in March, gets promoted to interim GM. He was the interim GM for the Raiders at one point, and right now making the deals right now. And of course, we find out today that Jaelen Phillips was traded for a 3rd round pick. So the rumored fire sale has begun. Tell me your reaction to this deal that when you saw through. Is it more than you expected? Would you have wanted more, or would you have wanted him to stay?
Nah, somebody put a post up, and I kind of knew it. If you go to all the bad teams where they are a cap, we're at the bottom. We're at negative 25 million next year. There's no way we can manage it. I think Jaelen Phillips is one of the best kids that's ever come into this place. I love the guy. I love his
100%.
intelligence. But the injury thing is a real deal. And there's no way that you could roll the dice. You're not going to be able to sign him next year. You had to move off him. And so this was as good as you're probably going to get. You're not getting a second round pick for him. He's in a 5th-year contract. So that means it's likely a rental unless you want to spend big. And he's only 26, which is amazing. So if somehow he stays healthy, somebody could get a steal from him. But look, we could have got a comp pick, say 27 for 3rd round, but somehow he gets injured. It could fall to 4th or 5th or more than that. And that's 2027. So you get a pick this year. And they always say you drop the value of a pick as the farther down the line it goes. So you would have gotten, if everything worked out, a 3rd round comp pick. You're getting a 3rd round pick. It's going to be the late pick. Yeah, I'd like to get the Jets pick that the Eagles have, but Harry Roseman's a master. He's probably, look, you don't want it. Okay. I got like 17 other deals to pick my guy up, so we were kind of, at the last minute, you can get maybe something special, but more likely than not, you've got to get rid of this guy. Everybody knows you got to get rid of this guy. So I think we got about as good as we could get. And I'm happy for it, although I just really like the kid. I think if the kid stayed healthy, he could have been special, and he might be special going forward, but it's not. This is as good as it's getting. And a 3rd round pick is a major pick for other teams than us. We don't ever do anything with our 3rd round picks practically. I mean, occasionally, but for the most part, we throw them away. See Roseman, he's got him stacked. He's moving them. That's what we need to do. And so this is an important pick. And let's see what we do with it. But, we got to move more pieces. We got to get rid of it.
We absolutely do. And I will say, again, I echo your sentiment on Jaelen Phillips, an amazing individual on the board of the DCC. I met him when I went to the Dolphins Cancer Challenge 2 years ago. Great guy, and yeah, he has the injury bug 2 years in a row and all that. But I'll tell you, anytime he was on the field, man, heart of a champion, man. The guy, always giving 100%. I know the last couple of weeks can't finish a sack. This season's been a struggle. And then he was on a contract year. This was the year to do it. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, we got fleeced. The Dolphins got fleeced. Not really. I think this was a great deal, really, for a 3rd round pick.
What are you getting from him? What
are you
going to think you can get?
What are you going to get? Yeah, he's 26 years old. He can't stay healthy. He's 26 years old. He's on the final year of his deal. 26 years old. He's struggling this year. So you had to get this deal done. And now you got 3 total 3rd round picks, which is huge. I think you got Houston's 3rd rounder. I think that's the other one. So yeah, right now you're going, oh, but the Eagles 3rd rounder is really like a 4th rounder because they're going to be good. It doesn't matter. 3rd rounder is a 3rd rounder. Guess what? You probably package those deals, move around, throw them to someone else, or move up. And you're absolutely right. Dolphins aren't done. There's a lot of noise going on right now for the Miami Dolphins. Minka Fitzpatrick, could he be on the move? Supposedly, people are linking his name to Dallas. I hope so too. Again, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with him? I think the best thing to do for this team, because this team's not going anywhere. And I hate to say it, but the truth is this team's not going anywhere. And so you got to get these players who are good and who could be good on great teams, and they're not doing good here. They're not making a difference. If they're not making a difference, move on, move forward. You got young enough pieces. You got the Devon H. that you could build upon. Kenneth Grant, Patrick Paul. Those are like your foundational pieces. But the pieces that, like a Minka, like a Jaelen, who's on his last year, those are the pieces you move to go ahead and get to. Now, if you get a 2nd round pick for a Minka, which is that to me is like wishful thinking. You know what I mean? But if you do for someone desperate like Dallas, which I think they're really probably going to go after Chubb, that's my inkling. I think Dallas is trying to get Bradley Chubb, who's probably going to be on the move too. Which, again, if you get a 3rd or a 4th rounder for him, that's great. Those mid-round picks are great. And you're 100% right. What has Miami done with those mid-round picks? Now, of course, you got the Achans in the world and whatever, but there's a different guy making those picks, whoever that is. We don't know yet. Will it be Champ Kelly? There's a report that he doesn't have no shot at it right now. That's really Stephen Ross, the one kind of approving these deals. How do you feel about Champ Kelly being moved up to interim GM? What was your reaction to that? Did you think he should have been Marvin Allen?
Look, I don't understand why. Well, I don't know what the future holds. I just kind of try to read the tea leaves. But if anybody who wasn't a complete, sometimes on occasion, I'm not like Steve Malloy. Let me give you a dose of reality. I'm going to do a little bit of that there. Look, I mean, they had to know this team was going to suck. And they cut the purse strings. The money man said no money. So they had to know that this thing was going to flop and Greer was gone. So what do you bring in Champ Kelly for? And for a year? And what is he really going to do now? Because you got to figure almost all the scouting stuff is pretty much starting to been work. They've got 3-4 years behind of scouting these guys out. You probably got to finish it up to the rest of the season, see how the rest of the college season plays out. But you're getting close to the end of that. A lot of evals are there. You're using the same scouting staff. You've got Marvin Allen there. So what really role is he playing? Like how much? And if you look at his past, he was with Chicago and they drafted what's-his-face, the crappy quarterback. He didn't really have much success there. I got to go back and do their study again, but I wasn't very impressed. He was with the Raiders and I wasn't too impressed there either. So what is he really doing? Why was he brought in? What's the deal? I don't know. But what is he really doing that Marvin Allen couldn't handle? So it just doesn't make sense in a way. If the guy had a good track record and he came from a winning franchise and lineage, and you could say, oh, well, man, you're bringing this guy in, you want him to dial in on this critical draft, and then you want to basically have a job interview for the GM, and he's a guy you think that could possibly get it. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I'm not a big fan of him. I think he's way better than Greer. He's played football. He's got a better personality. He's a clear upgrade over Greer. Don't get me wrong on that. I mean, Greer is a guy that's probably never had a hangnail. And if he did, he'd probably cry in the corner. So Champ Kelly is a mutt, but it's good, better, or best. And for me, you want to make sure, because right now you're in October, November, December, and then you get playoffs. You should be starting to interview then for your GMs and start lining up your GMs there. So how long before you get a new GM in here where that GM's then going to take over? So Champ Kelly is really being like a 2-month holdover unless he's going to be a long stayer. So it's like, what's the sense, because you're going to get a GM in here and he's going to have his own evals, whether he's an assistant to a GM or he's somebody, he's already evaluating the players. He's got his own thing. He's going to come in and look at the dossiers of the scouting reports, and he's going to start creating his own framework if you're getting a new GM. So how long is Champ Kelly really going to be manning this position? So what's the whole deal? I don't know. Clearly, I'm glad Greer's gone. Getting Greer out late raises the floor. It's a morale boost for fans, especially me, who's been this dire mortal enemy for 4 years. But if you're going to get a new GM, you're going to have that guy by January something. Unless it's a playoff team, but even then, you could still get him because if he's going to be an assistant, he's not going to be another team's GM. So how long is Champ Kelly really manning this position? You got November, December, and halfway through January. So I don't know. I don't know what it all means. I don't know what it leads to. But I think Marvin Allen could have handled most of this unless Champ Kelly's a guy they're looking at long term.
And that's where I started thinking about, because I know a lot of people had said when Champ Kelly was moved up and people started saying, don't ignore Champ Kelly for this position. Oh, I don't want nobody who's associated with the Dolphins. I don't want anybody who's associated with the Dolphins. And it was like, but wait, and I get that. I understand it. But this guy hasn't been with the Dolphins. He just got here. And that's what I started thinking about, because supposedly the rumor before the season was that, Greer could retire. He could resign and move up to another position.
Yep.
Was Allen or was Kelly hired as the heir apparent? Was he the second in line and maybe eventually going to take over? So maybe they sped up the process. If we're reading some of the stuff today, supposedly there's no chance he'll get the job. I think if he stockpiles enough picks, if he gets these picks, and supposedly, of course, it has to be approved by Ross. Of course, he's an interim. I expect Ross or whomever to say, yeah, go ahead and make this deal. They're not going to let some interim guy, this substitute, to make or go ahead and just agree to all. He's going to bring the deals to the boss and go, hey man, these are the deals we're getting. Yeah, go ahead and trade him. But if he goes and stockpiles these picks, he can walk into he's going to get the interview because he's there. But when he goes in there with everything, look what I was able to do. Look at this war chest. This is my plan for the Miami Dolphins, and go from there. Now, should he? I don't know. I don't know how comfortable I am. And that's the thing. It's the unknown of it. You rather get somebody who, like you said, you think of the Bears, you think of the Raiders, you think of what he did there. It's not comfortable. Okay, you see what happened today with this trade. He kind of goes, okay, damn, that's a good deal. That's a decent deal for that guy. But my daughter's screaming in the back. I don't know what the heck is going on. So I apologize.
I got kids and pets. They're always screaming through my stuff.
So as soon as we go live, dude, I don't know what the heck is going out there.
They know.
Yeah, they do. She's just being a brat. Everything's okay here. It's not a cat, it's the baby. But again, you look at that deal and you go, okay, damn, that's a good deal. A third, I thought it was a good deal. I know some people are, we could have got more. No, not really. You got to put all the factors into play, But I'm not somebody. I put him in the top 10 list when I had, there are some other guys that are there that I would look at too that are not on that list that I threw online. But I put him there just because he's in that seat right now. And Ross is someone who, Curtis, you could sit with Ross for 2 weeks, and then at the end of it, you'd be like, "You want to stay?" Because he likes you. Also, he starts to like you. And you're there for 10 years, and because and that's his flaw. So you can't ignore Champ Kelly. But let me ask you, man. I see your expressions. You're like me, hard to hide them. When I say Champ,
I'm not very good at deception.
I'm the same. People will tell me, dude, I saw your face was hard. I was like, I'm sorry, I gotta turn my camera off or something.
Working in New York, I did not show it on our face.
So let me ask you, man, if there's a name out there or names, please share. But if no names, what's your, because like me, you've been waiting for this moment for a long time. A new general manager, someone else running the Dolphins other than Chris Grier. It's happened. That's a reality now. So you, like I'm sure in your head has the if not the perfect candidate, the perfect description of what you're looking for. So if you had to write out a job description to post on Indeed for a Dolphins general manager, what are the qualifications that you're looking for?
Well, I'll get into that, but I'd like to wrap it up in process. So there's no quote unquote perfect right guy. You can get a guy in here and he could be the right guy and he could flop, go someplace else and really shine. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but it all starts at the owner and the owner's process. So let's say you're Stephen Ross and you're looking at this team and your money man says, hey dude, we're going broke, man. We gotta cut this thing. Look at 2026. We're going to be broke. You look at the roster, you're talking to football guys and this roster is really kind of wacky. I don't see how we're going to really cut it. Everybody kind of knows Chris Grier is not going to make it. So, you bring in Champ Kelly but through that, you'd want to also be vetting everybody because that Chris Grier is not making it. His chances of making it are so slim. You'd want to be ahead of the curve. You'd want to have multiple options in insurance. You'd want to consider guys that are around the league. And then at this stage, you could have Champ Kelly there, but you can interview guys right now. You could have guys that are waiting in the wing for the interview process. And the interview process, along with this intellectual setup of this situation, it's called about competition. And if Ross, I think I think he's a corporate guy and he'll stick somebody because that's what they do. But if he likes you, he'll go to hell and back for you. And it could be foolish. It could be whatever. But that's not how football's run. Football it's at its highest level. It's an intellectual barbarism. And you've got to play both sides of it. You've got to have this barbarous nature and highly intellectual nature. And Ross is a major corporate guy. And so it would be the same thing if he was going to fire his CEO. He would have multiple guys in the wings if he thought this guy was going to fall off the edge. And he'd want to get the best guy available through a competitive interviewing process. And more so with football, competition is king. You want competition. You want a guy coming in here trying to earn that GM spot, knowing he's got 15 other guys that are fighting for it. You want to see this guy battling it out, and you want to see it juxtaposed to a series of other guys battling out, and you take the king of the hill. If you come in with a predestined choice, then and given that Stephen Ross has failed, he called Philbin the young Don Shula. So he's got to know his own flaws. He's got to understand he doesn't know football. He's got to understand his corporatized separations of power structure that he's had going all the way back to post Parcells, whether it's Dawn Aponte, whatever. It's not a working solution to successful football. So from a GM standpoint, you'd want to find somebody. You're not getting a GM, but you want to find a successful program that is nailing the cores of its draft, that is has long-standing success, and somebody who's been matured. For me, I'd want a guy who knows football. He'd have to be extremely intelligent, extremely like near brilliant, like a Roseman. And if he's not that brilliant, I'd want a guy who's played ball at some level, which is why I like Champ Kelly a little bit, because you've got to understand. That's one of Greer's biggest flaws. He didn't understand the violent and brutal nature, the core of football, which is beyond me how he couldn't. And so you want a brilliant mind. And if he's a brilliant mind that played the game, or he's got some kind of athletic background, that's even better. But you want to look to these successful franchises that have long-standing track records of draft success, whether it's an assistant GM. Some people don't like it being college scouts. And that's not you want to be a facilitator. So as a GM, you don't need to be a great evaluator of talent. If you're smart and you understand the framework, and you're smart enough to hire heads of college scouting and college scouts and understand the core of the game. And then you work among your fellows and you just kind of pull it all together. But a real GM wouldn't want Ross and his cronies with their interfering process, because right now you got Ross bringing him in and he's saying trade this or not. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. He's saying keep McDaniel to the end of the season. And by some reports, he's saying keep McDaniel past the season. This is what got us here. Ross knows how to build. He knows how to make money. He does not know anything about football. He doesn't know how to build a framework for football. He doesn't know how to find leaders in football. He just needs to find someone who does know this and get the hell out of his way with the money man and Garfunkel. But I don't know if he wants to do that. There's no way that he should hand over this thing to Champ Kelly. It should be a competition. It should be, hey, look, you're the interim. Come January, I'm putting out feelers. Who wants this thing? Best man wins. If you're the best guy, you bring it to the table. Prove to me who it is. It can't be about who you like. I mean, you have to like him some ways, but he liked Gase. He liked McDaniel. He liked Greer. He liked Dawn Aponte. He liked Philbin. Everybody he likes is, and some people haven't been the best. You want to say Flores or whatever, because whatever, I have a extenuating circumstance that he didn't get along with Parcells. He didn't really like Sperano that much. But the majority of the people he likes, they suck at football. He likes them because he reminds me of him of them, which is a corporatized, kind of like a Teflon kind of friendly personality. He didn't get along. The Fangios didn't get along here. Those kind of guys is what you need. You need somebody who's half barbarian, half erudite, who's got the balls to tell Ross, you hired me to win. Listen, whatever you want. If I don't see it as a possible football success in the operations side of things, I don't care. You hired me to win. If you don't want that, I'm not here. but you're not going to have Garfunkel and the money man stepping in on me. I'm in charge of football operations. I'll listen to you because I'm a wise person, but I got the strength to tell you when things aren't good for you. I make the calls. This is not democracy. This is tyranny. One man decides everything, and he's the enlightened monarch. If you ever studied history, the greatest leaders are the enlightened monarchs, but they're so rare because most monarchs are treacherous and psychopathic. But if you get the enlightened monarch, the guy who has full control and he has the wisdom, then he's the best kind of leader. But that's what it works. Do you think Roseman's listening to the owner? I'm sure occasionally, but he's like, dude, I run a football operations. I'm not talking to my coaches in there. They might tell me what to do, but I'm in total charge. You got to have one guy in charge and wise enough to listen, but it can't be separations of powers with suits and whatever else. Hey, we want a guy that's going to raise our profile here. We want a more Hollywood look. Hey, draft this guy. We don't want that. And so if we don't go into this thing with a full-on job search for the GM, and the GM doesn't come here with the understanding that he's in full control, then we're going to raise the floor and maybe the ceiling a little bit, but it's always going to kind of fall in on itself because the biggest problem, the rotted foundation, is Ross and his corporatized structure. Just think about it. You were the one who picked Philbin. Then you had Ireland fighting with Abdorna Ponte and Philbin, and there was a 3-man battle. Then you had Bullygate. You totally bit into it. No one wanted to work here. You hired Hickey. Then you fired him after a year. You brought your guy Tannenbaum in here. Then you hired Gase and gave him player personnel control out of the blue. Gase says, I didn't even want it, but he just wanted to sell it so bad. And then that became a problem with Tannenbaum. And then you had Greer come in and the three more fighting because they had divisions of power. And then you said, I'm out of football operations. I'm getting rid of the whole thing. And then you brought you there? Am I slowing down? You did? Did I lose you? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, did I lose you?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what happened. All stalled out for a second. You were right on, man. You could have kept going. I hear you all good.
Oh, okay.
It's me. It's my end. I don't know what's up. You're good, brother.
It's always my end, so I just figured it's me. So, but that's the thing.
It was me. I don't know what happened.
Don't sweat. I'm going on. I'm doing a tirade. The thing is, you want one guy smart enough and strong enough to lead, and you can't just bestow on somebody that you want. My fear is Champ Kelly. If he gets it, he's just going to accept Garfunkel, the money man, and Ross interfering. And it's going to be divisions of power, and that's not going to take us to the highest level. Better than Greer, but the highest level is one man, one king, wise enough to listen, but he runs the show. So, you look through there's a lot of guys out there from successful franchises, their assistants and, whatever. You want a guy that's a business side, and you want a guy that knows football. I don't have any exact names. I got to start studying it out. There's no perfect guy. But if you get about 5 or 6 guys, then you can kind of lay it out and say, hey, which one's the best? Which brings the best plan? But without competition in football, it's not football. We did that with Tannehill, no competition. We didn't draft Carr. We didn't give Tua competition. We didn't give Eichenberg competition, Jackson competition. Now McDaniel might not have competition. Greer never had competition, never had to perform. That's not football. Football is violence and competition. And if you don't have that, the core is rotted.
Oh, man, I love it. Man. Talk about enlightened. Was it the enlightened monarch?
Yeah, man.
I feel enlightened right now, man. Educated. I'm educated right now.
I went to college, man. I got to use that stuff for something. Paid all that money, man. I better use it.
That's right, brother. You got to use it. It's right on. And everything you say, it's so true. And again, that's why I always say, everybody goes, oh, you got to get rid of this guy. Oh, you got to get rid of that guy. You got to get rid of this player. And yeah, you do need to get rid of this guy and this guy and this guy. But it's not just that one guy. It's a fundamental issue. The Dolphins have a fundamental issue. And it starts with the owner. Now, here's the problem. You can't really change the owner. you're stuck. So you got to pray and hope that the owner makes the right decision with whoever he's going to put there, and he, and let that guy do his job. Let me make sure here. Here we go. So you're right on with everything, and it's true. And I see some of the comments in there as you were talking, Steve, saying he doesn't know if people are going to want to come and work for Miami or for Stephen Ross. I believe that will have a lot to do with what they hear in that interview room. If it is the same of, they go in there with Stephen Ross, because I think people are going to come, because there's only 32 general manager positions in the league. And unless that one guy in that other franchise, whatever, has a guarantee with that team that he could be the next guy, or he's waiting for a specific job, they're going to take that call. They're going to go sit in that room because they don't know what they're going to hear. There's only 32 opportunities to be the head coach, the head general manager of a team. So they're going to go. They're going to get in that room. Ross is going to get them in that room, or the committee, whoever's going to make the hire. And when they're in there, they're obviously have to sell themselves, but the Dolphins are going to have to sell themselves as well. And because guess what? When you're looking at that cap situation and you're looking at that quarterback situation, which is going to kill you, that's why I think Miami's going to start to stockpile picks and trade up, because they're going to have to say, man, I know the cap looks like this, but this is what your war chest looks like. This is your stockpile of picks. And if they go down,
I think the Dolphins, if I was a GM and Ross said to me, look, I've done it this way for so long. It's insanity doing it all over again. You're in total charge. I would take this gig instantly, because the reality is this year's sunk. Next year is going to be sunk too. Next year, this team is going to be a low-win team. And as a GM, you come in and you're coming off a bad season. You've got the extra ammo. You've got high picks. You're going to be expected or allowed the 1-year mulligan. So you're going to have back-to-back good drafts. You'll be able to clear out the dead money. The dead money will be excuse for you having a sucky season next year. The talent that's going to get left behind because of the cap. You can say, hey, look, I got to move off Tua. I think Tua can play if you put him in the right, but he doesn't fit here. He's starting to get a little bit older. You add the injury problem and the high cap. You've got to move off him. So when you pull it all together, you're going to be expected or allowed the mulligan of a failed season next year. So you get a place that's got tax breaks. You've got a destination that people would want to be at. You're getting 2 high draft classes, and then you're going to be able to build from the bones up. The biggest blockade is whether you're going to be forced to be strapped with McDaniel if you don't want to.
That's the thing. Yep. Yeah. And that was my point.
Ross wanted to run the show from the background. That's the only 2 obstacles.
Because you said it, right? And, you're like, if you were to sit in that room and Ross was to tell you, everything you want to hear, right? What every other GM is going to want, because everybody's going to come in that room, unless, again, they have a guarantee with another team. But if they get in that room and Ross tells them, look, man, you're going to be the general manager. I want you to lead. I didn't fire McDaniel. Go ahead and sit with him. Get a chance to know him. If you like him, you think you can move forward with him, great. If not, you want to make a decision, you let him go. I think a GM said, okay, I could do this, because he's going to try to save the team. It's his thing. But if they go in there and, okay, you got this chest. Oh, great. Oh, man, I got these picks. I got all this. Bam, bam, bam. You can get your own quarterback. Awesome. But you're going to have to work with McDaniel. We're not firing him. Then, I'm good. I'm done. That's when that comes into play. That's when the guys are not going to want to come to the team, because then you're handcuffing them, because now they're handcuffed to that guy. So it doesn't make any sense. That's why, again, with the McDaniel thing, I understand all the right things are being said out of Ross's camp. And, you have his guys coming out and saying he's not going to get fired. He's, we want to last to the end of the year. We want to go beyond. Look, maybe he doesn't want McDaniel to feel like a lame duck. That's fine. But realistically, again, I believe that he's either saying wait till the end of the year and then let the new GM do it, or if they completely fall off a cliff, which they already have, they're there. But if they get steamrolled by Buffalo and beaten by Mariota in Spain, then I think by the time he comes back, he's gone. And that would be the best case scenario for the Miami Dolphins, because now you got a clean slate and you let a new GM hire his coach. Or You go get your coach. If it's an experienced guy, if it's a former head coach, whomever that may be, whether that's the Petersons or the Riveras or the Grudens, whatever, those guys more than likely are going to want a guy they're their own general manager.
Yeah.
That would be the best case scenario. So but I love one thing you said, and I this kind of goes for head coach too. For me, head coach, I want an experienced guy. That's how I feel. I want a guy who's been a head coach before. I don't care if he failed. Like now, there are some guys that I'm going to go, but I'm willing to listen in on more experienced guys. The time when if they're a rookie coach, if they're a coach that hasn't been a head coach before, they've been a coordinator, whatever, I'm in on the former player. Get me a guy who's played in this league before. Get me a guy who could be on the same level as the players in the locker room. When situations go down, they're in on it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to a general manager, I've started having that feeling too. Like, I'm not against a GM who's done it before. I'm not, if there's a guy who's played in this league, again, that's why I like Champ Kelly. Again, he's not my first, second, third, fourth, whatever choice, but I don't hate it because, again, he's someone who's been there. There's other guys, out there who've been, one of the guys I put on that list. I'm trying to remember his last name. His first name, Chad Alexander. I think he's the assistant GM of the Chargers. Young, played before, been in the league for years. There are guys, Ray Agnew from Detroit. Those are guys that I would like to see interview at least. I'm not going to say I want this guy to be the GM. I want this guy to interview. There are former GMs who've been successful before, who fell off and got laid off. I think those guys should get interviewed. I know he's never been a GM for any NFL team, but Alonzo Highsmith expressed interest recently. But the guys like John Robinson, Thomas Dimitroff from Atlanta, is there any particular name that you'd love to hear interview for the Miami Dolphins? That when you hear his name, you're going to go, I like that. Interview him.
Honestly, I never thought Greer was getting canned. I didn't want to waste my time and effort going through the guys. I'm going to do it now. But for me, what I think is that when you look at a team, and it's the philosophies. What's the philosophies? So like Howie Roseman's philosophy has been, since he's been there, you build on the trenches, you build on defense, you get that set first, and then you take shots at the quarterback because the team's core is critical. You look at a team like the Ravens, you look at even where KC's headed, you look at teams that have the right philosophy, and what's the philosophy of the guys. So I don't really know all the different dudes. I'm going to go study it out. I just never even thought that. I thought that maybe you get fired at the end of the season. So I'm more really concerned about the philosophy of getting competition, not handing it over. And then what's the philosophy of the guy you're bringing in here? The guy's philosophy has to be about physicality. It has to be developing trenches. It can't be some fun football. Like, Atlanta, they've kind of had a decent philosophy over there. I'm not super thrilled about their overall philosophy. I definitely would like to see somebody. To me, the Vikings are been done a great job for a couple of years. There's somebody in there I'd like to check out. Anybody in the Ravens organization, they do phenomenal. They've been successful for years. So Philadelphia, anybody who Harry Roseman works with and is that close is somebody I want to get. I don't know if there's somebody out there like that. So I'll go looking through particular names, but it's really about the overall philosophy of bringing this guy in here and what does he believe and does he get full control? But like you said, as another point factor, it could be the head coach. Like Harbaugh, he came in and he picked his GM. You look, that's fine too. It just needs to have one guy with the gravitas to tell Ross and his guys back off. I ain't accepting that. There's no way Ross was terrified of Parcells. That's part of the reason why Parcells left. He never offered him an extension because he was so nervous around him. But that's the kind of guy you need, whether it's the head coach or it's the GM. And so whoever that is, Champ Kelly just doesn't really I don't see him as a guy that's going to do that, but I could be wrong. So that's the kind of person you need, kind of a guy who's going to come in and say, no, I'm not taking the job. It's either this, or I'm out.
100%. Again, that's why, again, and I said that before because, like you bring up Parcells, he had Parcells, Ireland, Sperano. Again, I will say, I think that was the right formula. I always thought that was the right way to go. You had the EVP, you had the guy who had the final say. Then you had Jeff Ireland, he was your GM, and then you had their coach. And, oh goodness, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. Huizinga. Huizinga took the back step. Parcells, and I loved it. I was a huge fan of it. I was younger, and I was like, this is great. This is a former Super Bowl coach. He's a hard ass. Let him run it. Let him again. And I will die on the hill that they made the right choice at number one. Of course, injuries came into play. Could be like, oh, we should have took Matt Ryan. No, I was a huge fan of taking Jake Long when we took him.
He would have been unbelievable if it wasn't for that stupid preseason injury.
I'm saying, like, again, people go, oh, we should have. No, dude, this was the right thing to do. They made the right choice. They had the right idea. It just didn't work. And so they definitely need someone to, and again, best thing for all, you get nervous around the guy you're working with, then you know what? You're in charge because you need to make me money. You need to make sure that if you want to win on the field, get that guy who, at the end, you hold his job in the palm of your hands, but he's going to tell you when you go, hey, man, I really like this one guy. Hey, let me handle this? You go out there, or go sit in the back in the area. Let me do this. If you don't want it, then I can go. You let hire Kelly right back there. He's sitting back there. You let him do it. Oh no, go. Okay, good. Let me do my job. And you're right too. And that's the one thing too. Like I'm not against listening to any guy. I tell me a name, sell me on that guy. But I'm with you when it comes to. I want a guy who's a guy or a girl, whomever, because you got Catherine Hickman. She's done a bunch of stuff too. So I know her name's thrown out there. I don't, Donna Ponte back in the day.
I'm sorry. I don't want no woman running this team. It's a man's sport. You've got to understand these core tenets. I mean, I'm sure there's women that do, but there's just an element of, no, I don't want a woman. There's no way. No way. So nothing. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm a bad guy or whatever.
No, it's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to say here is get someone from an organization who knows, because it's very easy to trade. It's very easy to throw a bunch of money at a player and sign him as a free agent. Miami's done it for years. How many playoff games have they won? How many Super Bowls have they won? It's about drafting. It's about 100%. Building. Yep. And so you want someone who comes from an organization or is a pupil of a guy, you bring Howie Roseman from the Eagles, whatever, who knows how to draft, who knows how to build. Even the players that you kind of go, wait a second. Shut up, DSG. No. But anyway, get someone who knows that even though it's not the best pick, like you go, like we cut you, but then that guy works out. He's a 10-year pro. He might not be the sexiest pick, might not be the best pick, but he's going to be the one that's a 10-year pro. He's the one who's going to be reliable. He's the one who's healthy, not the Cam Smiths of the world, not the Jalen Wrights who can't find the field, not the Ibenaganis who are good dudes. No. They're great guys, but those are a bunch of random ass picks. Get the guys who know, or the personnel who knows, hey, this is how you win. Start drafting from the inside to the outside. So the names that I have on here, go ahead.
No, I actually send me those names after. I'm going to start checking because I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I got to start doing it. I never thought it was viable. No, I was just going to say that this is a long operation. You're talking 2028 before this team's really going to be viable. And, people say, oh, you could turn it around and look at the Patriots. The Patriots, they had their quarterback in play. They pulled one of the best coaches in the league. They had players on the team, one of the best cornerbacks. They have players that in it. They had Ramondre Stevenson. They had some guys on defense. They had tons of money. They had like $200 million to spend, and they're still loaded. So it's a totally different situation. You got to clear your books. You got to clear the roster. And if you look at somebody, even like Waddle, he's 27. He gets dinged a little bit. And so he'll be 28 next year, 29. He'll be almost 30 by 2028. And that's really the prime year. A lot of these guys are not going to be there. You've got to understand this is not Ross, let's throw it together and we'll go win the Super Bowl because the fans want it. And it's the same, slap it together, just throw stucco on the roaches and it's going to look great. This is a total rebuild. You're going to have to strip this thing down. So you want, like people are like, we got to get the quarterback this year. You don't. I mean, somebody was even saying in the comments, Mayfield was looking around, Daniels was looking around, Donald was looking. Why? But they went to teams that were built to be teams, and teams allow quarterbacks to be portable into different types of quarterbacks, because if you have the right framework, you can get success. This has got to be about long-standing success, which means you've got to build the core of this team out. You can't be forced into grabbing quarterbacks because the coach, the owner wants to win or the fans want. No, you got to have a guy with serious balls, and I'm sorry, women don't have them, to get in here and just sit down and say, look, this is a long project. I'm doing it my way. I might find Bo Nix at 15 if I'm patient enough, if I trade back this year. Hey, you get a top 5 pick, top 3 pick, right quarterback's not there, you trade back. You got more ammo for next year. You're going to suck next year. That was Greer's biggest mistake. Yeah. He reached. He should have just said, screw it, I'm trading back. I'm picking more stuff up. But he had to go for Jackson. He had to draft Tua. Tua could have been something, but then they screwed up. Then you had to spend all 2 picks on first-round picks on Waddle. You had to spend all your picks on Chubb and Hill. It was an idiot's build because the owner wanted to win. They wanted to raise ticket prices. So you've got to just say, I need somebody in here who's a builder, who's going to set the superstructure and foundation of this thing for long-term success. And it's going to take 2 or 3 years. So, that's my take. I know I'm old school. I'm ancient. Men just know violence. They know that women just, what I'm saying? There's brilliant women. I've met some brilliant women that know the game of football, but there's an intellectual ascension. And it's why I've argued with so many people, so many guys that cover the Dolphins who are way smarter than me, but they've never been in a fist fight. They've never played football. They've never been split open and had to get back out there and do their deal. That's the heart of football. It's pure violence. It's physical domination. If you don't understand that, you're going to be sold fumble and Hill and Waddle. It's about hurting people, breaking them down, breaking their bodies down so their minds fold. And you got to know that.
So I'm going to tell you everything you said. I know you're talking about a GM, but I'm going to tell you this. This is where I'll differ with you on. Or no, I'm not different because I think you'll say the same thing. I want that in my coach. I want a guy who's going to instill violence in the team, not finesse. Now, I love speed. We all love speed, but we need violence. We need mean. We need assholes. We need guys who are, not hugging and tugging and doing all this other crap. We need guys who are going to smash, move, they create a path. We don't have that in Miami. And again, you hear that all the time. Soft. We do have those soft guys. Even when they're down, play like they are. So that's in the coach. We don't, again, the team takes the identity of their head coach. McDaniel, guy, all that whatnot. That's not what this team is. We need a guy like that. I would love to get a coach who's kind of an old school mentality. A guy that, again, that's why I was big on Aaron Glenn, former player. He's in the Jets. I hate that he's on the Jets. Even the Johnson and Ben Johnson in Chicago, he's a little too mean. He's a coach. I want him mean. I need him to be a little bit of an a-hole, as long as they're winning, which they are. They're not doing so bad right now in his first year. So I hear everything you're saying, but when I hear that, that's who I want in my head coach. What do I want in the chair? Who I want looking and getting the players? I want someone who's going to be a smart when they're doing it. Not someone who tries to outsmart everybody else and everything. No, someone who actually goes, no, man, wait a second. We need this pick. And like you said, that's not old school, brother. I'm with you 1,000%. When it comes to you got that top 5 pick, yeah, if there's a real legitimate guy in the top 5 that you cannot pass up, whoever that may be, go ahead, make the pick. But realistically, what I'd prefer, trade down. Stop. All day, every day. Because if you're a good GM and you got a great scouting department, you don't need that top 5 pick to find a great player. You're in the 2025s, you got then 2 first rounders next year, you can find a great player in that top 25. You don't need that top 5. So I know a lot of people are like, man, we need to keep losing. Okay, great. We can keep losing. We get that top 5 pick. But if there's not a guy, I don't want to say generational, I think that's way overused, but a guy who's legitimate top 5 talent, you can't pass up on that one guy, go ahead and do it. Take that guy. Don't be an idiot. Don't miss on that guy. But if you're looking there and go, man, we could go this guy, dude, trade the hell out. Go ransom that pick. Get as much picks as you can, because if you're that damn good at your job, you should be able to go ahead and get a guy just as good with the 20th and then the second. That's why the third round, I love when I look into the draft and I do we do the draft show here and we watch the film and everything. We got a great crew, Josh Wingate, coach. I love looking at those mid-tier guys. That's the butter. That's the gravy. That's the so when I see third rounders, I'm salivating. I'm like, that's great.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you get stuck, dude. If you're stuck in the top 10, you get stuck in those guys because you're not going to reach for a guy that people say, oh, he's going to be in the top 20. No, you got to you're usually stuck trying to get one of those top 10 guys. But if you trade out, do your job. Find those guys nobody else is talking about. So
it's a game of look, you're not hitting on everybody, but the more shots you got, the more likely you are to find guys. That was one of Greer's biggest problem. He kept doubling down on his picks, whether it was for a trade or whatever. And he didn't hit the mid rounds, but he was expending these picks and really not getting huge returns. And he was compiling all these picks. So it was less shots. You want more shots. You want to have flexibility. I mean, look at Howie Roseman. He sees the weakness of these teams that got to go fire sale, and he's got the ammo to take advantage. And so one little point. I want to count you on one point. So
yeah.
I'm big on psychology. It's something that I've spent a lot of time. I grew up in a very violent, drug-fueled home, so I always had to constantly study the people around me to see if they were lying and what they were telling the truth. So I became a guy who always, I grew up in New York, so I had a lot of, violence and stuff. So I always had to study people. And so a person, most people, and I spent most of my life doing this, and I fight to control my mind to do this, but most people project rather than perceive. And so they'll see something and they take what they think and they feel and they project it on that and they believe it's perception. And so what you want you can get a guy who's never been in lots of fights, but if he's really, really smart, he's got to have some kind of ego and an internal brutality to him. Because even as these GMs, Howie Roseman's a gentleman, but he's an assassin. And so you need somebody who understands, and it's hard for women in general to see that because they're more nurturers. They're more, it's like if you put a guy with a kid, it's not innate in them. And so that violent, competitive level, you need a GM who's brilliant, but they're erudite, but inside them is an assassin or a barbarian. And so because their philosophy is going to be projected on the philosophy of the team and the roster build. And when they're going through those dossiers and those profiles of players like Chris Greer liked nice, smart guys that were athletic. But he wasn't looking into the deeper qualities, and because he wanted to take guys that he associated with and that he psychologically would project himself on. And that's why you got these same kind of guys over and over again. And he couldn't find these guys because that's what his psychology was, because he was constantly projecting rather than perceiving. And that's why I would prefer somebody with some kind of background in sports, or if they're like Harry Roseman, they're brilliant. The guy's got a genius IQ. But if you watch him, he is competitive like anybody's business. He's working all around the clock. They win the Super Bowl, and he's a day later, he's doing his thing, and he's trying to cut everybody and get the best deal. So that's the kind of person we need. And that kind of person will tell Ross and the money man and Garfunkel, screw you. And that's what you need.
So I'm trying to think his name. I was trying to look him up.
I think I'm going on a rant here, so I'm sorry.
You're good. Oh man, you're fired. I love it, dude. Fired up. No, I'm trying to, because I'm trying to remember the guy that he looks young, dude. So I'm like, I have a PTSD in regards to these young, because every time it's the same thing. McDaniel 4 years ago, people saw his picture and they're like, oh, I really like this guy because he looked like an IT guy, and I was like, oh, dude, I wasn't. So this kid, but he comes from he's in Philly, and I think it's Ellerby. Somebody in the comments will know. But he comes in that tree. He's only 39 years old, and he's under Roseman, and that could be a guy that I know the fans are loving on him. That's a guy you could look up. And then I think Andy Rydell, the Steelers assistant GM, I think he's also from the Eagles. And then George Kokonis, Ravens VP of Player Personnel, was the former GM of the Browns a while back. Those are a couple guys. So you're just saying those names, and I'm just thinking about them right now, or saying your preferences.
Yeah, I'm gonna study him out because you need to if whoever these GMs are, you've got to put film of them talking, and you've got to study their personality. Like I'm going to start doing a psychology profile on all the top GMs, and I'm going to start checking their history and what makes a good GM. Because
that's how I feel about the coaches. I'll watch how a coach does a press conference.
Yeah.
And again, I understand. I to sound like I'm picking on McDaniel, but again, if and I'm thinking if he's talking like that, and I understand maybe in front of, maybe he's a little shy in front of the camera, whatever. But again, this is a guy who's supposed to be leading, and if he's leading you, are you going to run through a wall for him? Or are you going to try to play? I don't know, but when people go John Gruden or you listen to those guys, and I'm not pushing any way direction for whatever coach, get your shit together, get in line, do this, do that, and that's the type of coach. So I do watch when we hired Weaver. I watched a lot of his press conference just to kind of get an idea of his personality, and I liked it. Now again, defense is sucking this year. I'm not saying pushing him for coach, but I'm with you. You got to watch. You could get a lot from watching someone and kind of getting a vibe of how this person may be, especially talking behind closed doors. And I'm just gonna go with that. We'll go right to him. And Mike McDaniel. Let's just stay on that. Talking a lot about GM preferences for GM, what type of GM you're looking for, and I think we hammered it home. Mike McDaniel, he survived. He did not get fired, in which Ross is famous for doing. He'll fire one guy and hold on to another. So Mike McDaniel survives for now, but I've seen this thrown out there. Obviously they're throwing little hints out here. Again, fans are talking about it. Should he be given the chance to coach this team next season with a new GM and a new quarterback?
But you see, so another thing I like to do, I study media narratives and psyops. So what you'll get is floater stories. And those floater stories come out and they get test runs. And one of the current test runs is poor Mike McDaniel. He was strapped by Greer. Poor Mike McDaniel. He was strapped by Tua. He came here and he was forced to accept him. And then all of a sudden it came out, Ross is going to have him to the end of the year. And Ross really likes him. And, maybe he's considered keeping them. So, but now you're going to flush down talent. And at some point they're talking about benching Tua to see what you got with Ewers. There's no way that this guy can win his way through. So anybody who's not high on crack, smoking peyote and just got an instant lobotomy is going to think that he's got a chance. So why is he even floating it out there when the whole goal is to get a top draft pick anyway? So you have to ask yourself, does Ross have the wherewithal to relinquish control in his buddies? And if not, and he struggled to find GMs. He struggled to find top coaches. Most of them don't want to come here. You could say it's because of this or that or whatever. Maybe he realizes that he's not going to be able to get a top flight coach. Maybe he realizes that those kind of GMs and coaches don't want to come here if he doesn't relinquish power. And he's got a very jaded history on coaches and GMs and people in general that are real football people. He always bangs heads with them. So maybe he realized, you know what? We'll dump a lot of talent. We'll put it out there. We got rid of Greer. That's going to float to the fans. We'll have a top pick. Maybe we'll go get a quarterback. I got, Champ Kelly here and Mike McDaniel. I'm not going to find another coach. I really like him. I feel comfortable with him. Maybe they're setting that up because he knows he can't do any better. And you go look at the last cycle, McDaniel was the fourth guy. No one wanted to come here. Was it Greer? I don't know. Was it other things? I mean, he could have got Peyton here in his little treacherous background thing. So, but is he going to get a guy like that to come here? I don't know. And so maybe that's what the figure is the best he can get. And so if he creates enough narratives around it, then maybe he can fly McDaniel for one more season with Champ Kelly. Who knows? I don't know. I don't trust anything that he says. because he's lied so much in the past. I'm not saying he could do the right thing at the end of the year, but history says he won't. So we'll see.
And I have to ask you, since your rant with the GM, I have to ask you, Coach, if and when McDaniel gets let go, I'm all about. I want the experienced coach. I know I'm with you. They should have both been gone now, but I'm with you. And again, I know a lot of people are like, oh, he just stayed till the end of the year. I don't. No, I think again, 2 games. I think he'll be bouncing out the door, which is what it is. And he seems like a good guy. And maybe he gets a coordinator job somewhere else, and maybe one day he's a better head coach. He learns his lesson, about what to do better. He's smart. He'll figure it out, maybe. But next head coach, are you okay with the idea of another rookie head coach who's had a number? Or are you on the mindset of give me a veteran coach? Is there any particular coach you're interested in? Where's your mind on that part?
Well, if you got the right GM, if you get the right coach, like a real stud coach who's got full control, then he's supposed to make the right call at GM. But if you get the right GM, the stud GM that tells everybody screw off and he's the right guy, then it doesn't matter who you get. He'll find the right guy, whether it's a retread or it's a rookie. You can get smart rookies here, and you should have done what you did with McDaniel. You didn't do. You brought him in here, green head coach, who's up in the booth, run game coordinator, who had to win instantly, and you gave him no offensive line to facilitate his strength, which was the run game. So if you had the right GM knows, hey, I'm getting good picks this year. We're going to suck next year. We're going to clear a cap in 27. I bring my head coach in here. I think he's really smart. He gets 1 year to a mulligan year, kind of like what Flores had the first year. And you saw how much he grew out of it. There was pressure, but he grew out of it, and he had a darn good finish to the season, and they were kind of doing something the next year. Then he melted down or whatever. But you get a smart guy in here. You build him the team that facilitates his strengths, and you allow him to mature, and you're trying to aim for 2028. I'm fine with that. But you need one stud. One guy strong enough to tell Ross and his cronies back off. One guy who's super smart and super aware and has the right philosophy. And then the coach, he'll pick the right coach. So I don't really care. You can get green coaches. You can get veterans. It's about the pool between the GM, owner, and the head coach. What's that pool say? We've basically had an interfering, idiotic owner who doesn't know football and subpar talents at GM and coaching. So that's not the right medicine. That's not the right juju for this team. So get yourself a stud GM, and then you can get the green coach, or you get yourself some stud head coach, and you can get a kind of a green talented GM. One guy's got to have the power to tell Ross and his cronies to back off, and he'll make the right decisions after that. He's got to, or he's not the right guy.
Let me tell you something. I've not been in on any kind of rookie coaching. There's, again, if he is, it's a former player, because I think they kind of understand it better. You look at what DeMarco Ryans did, and Vrabel, et cetera. But I'm going to tell you this. You got me leaning in that direction. Like, I like that. It doesn't matter who it is. Just get that guy in the front office and let him pick whoever he's going to pick, because they're going to be on the same page. So I love that answer. See, you're getting there, brother. I was leaning one way, and I was like, God dang, dude.
I sold you a little bit. I don't know if I'm right.
Pastor. Nobody knew that he was a pastor. That's what he does at free time. He's preaching. So I love that, and I hear you. Again, there's a few. I know people are, and Joe Brady and these other guys, and kind of like, oh gosh, offense. The one guy that I kind of have, there's a few of them who are not experienced coaches. Hank Fraley, who's on Detroit right now. He played under Andy Reid, coach under Andy Reid with the Eagles. And then he coaches with Dan Campbell in Detroit. He's the he was the offensive line coach. They loved him. They were like, they didn't want to get rid of him. And then now he's the run game coordinator. That was one guy I think that, especially if you get like Ray Agnew, could be in play. And he's a former player. He's one of those guys that I watch his press conference and I'm like, I could see him leading a group. So that's a name to throw out there. Let's talk about maybe the most polarizing person in Miami. Now that Greer's gone and McDaniel, he's only been for a couple. Let's talk about the most polarizing guy. And that, of course, is the quarterback. I'll tell you, man. I have post game, and then I'm forgetting the other show, but I've gotten some heated debates with my partner in crime on pregame, postgame, Finstanza. And, he is in the mind of, he doesn't care what the cap situation is going to be. He would just cut Tua now after the end of the season or trade him and take the big hit and just start with a whole cleanup, no matter what our cap's already a mess. I'm in the mindset of keep him for a season, go draft your guy, have Tua compete. If Tua starts, fine. He's a capable starter. Hopefully he does well with a new coach, a new GM, and so well enough that you could use him for draft assets later, and it doesn't kill you as much in the cap situation. Have him be your backup, and then guess what? You have a capable backup. If the starting quarterback, your rookie, gets hurt, you got Tua come in here, you're golden. We're not worried we're getting the Zach Wilsons or the Mike Whites of the world. We have Tua back there at least for 1 year, where Evan's like, no, clean break. Who was it? The Broncos did it with Russell Wilson. They set the record with $80 million cap hit. The Dolphins, of course, would break the record with 114.2 big cap hit if they were to cut Tua. Of course, they could spread that out over 2 years. I think if it's a post June 1st cut, I have to ask you, how do you think this process should play out? Are you in the mind that Miami should move on from Tua? Do you think they could try to work it out with a new coach? Would you give him another year? Or would you be like, no, man, whether it's this year or next year, it's time to move past the Tua era?
Well, I think whatever decision you make, it's got to be best for the team. And you don't know what our situation is going to be. So for me, if Curtis, the GM, came in and everything worked out to my snapping of fingers, and I would have my quarterback this year, I'd pick my quarterback with the top 3 pick, and he'd be a superstar. He's going to be elite. He's going to be the next Josh Allen. And I would not start him the first season. I would try to keep Tua for a season and build up his value so I could dump him in a trade, because I have to get off him, because I would need a quarterback-friendly contract. Really, if it was Coach Curtis, I wouldn't draft my quarterback till next year, because I'd want to extend out that quarterback rookie contract. But I would want to keep Tua healthy. I'd want to get him to perform at some level, so at the end of next year, I could trade him for something. I would definitely be planning to move off him. But if I move off him next year, I'm probably not trading him unless he stays healthy for the rest of this year and he has success. If he does and is a trade partner, I'm moving off him next year. But I'm not going to just cut him and then take the hit, because what is that really doing for me? You want to try to get something for him. You want to try, because if you cut him next year, then you're going to have to take that dead cap money and extend it out into 27 and 28. And that's going to further impinge on your future. You want to get rid of Tua. That's the bottom line. I don't think the kid's terrible. I think he could have been way more successful. GM Curtis would have built better around him and he had more success. But the reality is you want to try to get something for him. And you've got to create value for him in order to get something for him. And you want to take as little cap hit as you can before you get rid of him. Because if you just get rid of him to get rid of him, then that's not, you're not thinking rationally. And what is that doing for the team? Everything has got to be about what makes this team better. How can I get rid of something to get something in return? How does everything I do make our team better? And it really doesn't serve the team just to cut him, because if you could bench him if you had a better quarterback and wait the year, you're not winning next year, and you'd have less money. You'd pay the money out, but then you'd have less money that is infringing on your future. I have to go over the numbers, but you want to get off to it, but you want to make sure it's the least hit possible and see if you can get something for the guy. If you set him up where he stays healthy for 2 years and he has some success, somebody's going to give you something, even if you eat a little bit of the money. And it's not about keeping him. It's not about on. It's about trying to get this team better.
And that's my thing. To me, it's I understand it. Oh, we just want to move past it. And Evan's saying, oh, if we keep Tua and let's say we draft a guy or we bring another guy in, when that guy struggles, they're going to put Tua in. Look, man, enough of that. If you got a good coach and you got a good organization, and that noise ain't going to matter. I don't want to take no hit. That's my big thing. I think it's
a lot of money.
That's what I said.
That's $30 million for the next 3 years. That's 26, 27, and 28.
And that's what I said. Look, if we hired a new GM and got a new coach, and they cut Tua, and they take that massive hit, to me, they would be the stupidest group of guys duo that we got. I mean, that would be the dumbest move to do. Because even if you wanted to move on, the best case scenario is you keep him in going into next year. You again, even if he's your starter, like you said, you would wait a year to get rid of him. Start him. Hopefully, if he does really well, and you're like, they're still going to move on from him, but he does well enough where his value starts to pick up, then you can move him. Get something for him, but don't take a hit for him. Don't take a hit and get nothing in return. Basically making him compete for QB1. Absolutely. I would make him compete in it. And I wasn't looking. Hi, guys. A bunch of troublemakers in the comments. I see you guys out there, Ray Finkel and DSG, a bunch of troublemakers. Put your asses in timeout, playmakers.
So just look at this here. If you cut him post June in 27, you only have 13 million dead money. If you cut him pre-June in 26, you're at negative 42 million on your cap. And you got a $99 million dead money. If you wait to post June, you could cut them post June, and then you get 11 million dead and 67 million, which you could stretch out in 26 and 27 with another 7 million going to 28. But what is that doing for the team, really? Like, what is it? Is that doing? So if you just simply wait one more year, and you cut him post June, you only got a 13 million dead. And we're just so broke that if you cut him, you're going to be negative 42 with 3 years worth of dead money. So it's 30 million dead. It's almost cost prohibitive unless you get a trade. You could do some trade stuff, pre-June trade 26. I don't know if you're going to get a pre-June trade of 45 million dead and 11 bonus. Post-June, it gets more expensive. Post-June, it's still 11. You could trade him maybe to a team and eat half that, and then a team that might be able to put him on there for $20 million. There's teams that would take him for $20 million.
Yeah, this is what Ian Rappaport wrote. This second half of this article talking about the Dolphins and the GM search and all this, but he had something on Tua's situation. One is to move forward with him as the starting quarterback for next season. A second option is to cut him this coming offseason, as the Broncos did with Russell Wilson in 24, while taking a hit of $85 million in dead salary cap, the largest dead cap in history. If the Dolphins release Tagovailoa this offseason, it would set a new record cap hit of $114.2 million. Miami could spread that out if he's designated as a post-June 1st cut. 55.4 in 2026, 61.6 in 27. It would be costly, but Denver did it, and Miami could similarly withstand such a hit if it decides that is what's best for the franchise. Another option, which seems more viable, is pay down some of the salary next offseason and trade him as a bridge QB for a team in transition or one that has a young QB they'd like to have sit. Would a team pay a portion to his salary to have to be a bridge starter? Likely they would. This is what the Dolphins offseason is all about, will be about. So that's from Ian Rappaport. So it's not like it can't happen. But again, I just think of that, trade him to a team to have as a bridge quarterback. To me, he's already on your team. I'd rather not take the hit, keep him as our bridge quarterback. And if you got to get a QB this year or next year, whatever, he's already in place. And if you got to start him or bench him and you got your rookie, you have someone sit in the wings. If that rookie goes down, you can bring in Tua and whatever. And hopefully his value goes up if he comes in, or he's already a starter and you can move on from him. But yeah, I'm a big thing against, now again, if they did it, get it over with. It's over. I'm not going to go crazy over it, but I don't want to take that big of a hit.
I mean, look, you got to look at it. You don't, if you keep him and he gets injured, then he could extend his stay here. There's that too.
Yeah, 100%. You're right.
That's a negative. I mean, you got to get rid of him. And again, I don't think it's because he's the worst quarterback in the world. Some lights. But he definitely had the injury thing's the biggest thing. I think a lot of the stuff that people get down on is just the framework sucks. I mean, if I put Tua on the Colts or I put him on, Seahawks or one of these other teams, he would have more success. Would he be as good as Donald? Would he be good as Mayfield? Would he be good as Goff? I don't know. He's not going to be as healthy, but he would be more successful. This framework was terrible. This framework would have lowered any quarterback. And you're going to see it now with Herbert, with Alt and Slater out. You're going to see his success diminish too. It's about framework. I mean, the kid's biggest problem, he can't throw deep outs. He's got a little bit of the yips, and mostly it's the injury history. But after that, it's the terrible framework and terrible design. So, I don't know.
No, man. Right on. No, it's a great conversation. Well, hopefully, I was just looking. There's nothing as of yet in regards of any kind of trade, an additional trade, at least unless something just happened and I didn't see it. But no, we're waiting.
I know Donna Ponte. Donna Ponte was here arguing with Ireland and Philbin in the three-way civil war, and then she left after that. I don't want her here. That's not you don't want people that are strife kind of people. I don't want her here. I definitely not want to be. I know Donna Ponte really well. She was all around during the Bullygate in the Philbin era. Her and Philbin, I think, were back.
She works for the NFL now. Yeah, that's my mother there. They're trying to cause trouble. They're causing trouble in the comments, man. I see what they're doing. No, and shout out to Donna Ponte working for the NFL now and all that. But she was here. She was the VP of football operations, and she's a salary cap specialist. That's what she was an accountant for the Jets, I believe. That was her first thing, and so good for her. And I doubt. I don't know if she'd do it or not. Yeah, but anyway, but no trades right now. Again, we're waiting to see what happens with Jerry Jones. I think Bradley Chubb. I know people are saying Minka Fitzpatrick. We'll see who it's going to be. Let me ask you this before we wrap it up. How many, people say fire sale, what is the definition of a fire sale? We know Jaelen Phillips got traded. Who else can you see out the door for Miami before the deadline tomorrow? If you had the name,
guess. I don't know about Chubb. He's got a pretty big contract. Maybe Chubb, but I think Minka Fitzpatrick are probably the best because he's been healthy. He's been successful. I mean, Waddle, if we wanted to get rid of him, I would get rid of Waddle because I just don't think he's going to be around by the time we're successful again. And I think you can get a cheaper kind of guys. And, only if you got really good draft. Like if you got a first rounder for him and a third, maybe, I would do that. And maybe like a fifth. I wouldn't just get rid of him to get rid of him because his contract's so cheap and he is a stellar player, but he won't be around long term. But I think something like that, maybe some of these like low end guys, a Judon or whatever.
Yeah. I think, in regards to Chubb, again, I understand the contract situation. It makes a lot of sense. And a team desperate enough to need a pass rusher, okay. I wouldn't hate not losing him. Just at least, you could probably move him at the end of the year just because I think he's the most productive guy that we've had this season. He's been a good team captain. I love that he faces the press or I like Bradley Chubb. I don't think, I like him on the field. He's the one, at least he's getting sacks. But in regards to like Jalen Waddle, I understand that like the pushback from people like, oh, don't trade Jalen Waddle. And again, love Jalen Waddle. However, like you said, he's kind of dropped off a little. I don't want to say he's a bust. I don't think that's fair. But I will say he's dropped off a little bit, injuries and stuff. I thought he would be able to handle Tyreek Hill and all that. And he's shown some things this year. However, if you could get a first round pick for him, and like you said, a third round pick, you'd have to consider it. It's because you're not going to do much with him. Agent, I wouldn't touch. Don't even bring up Agent. Don't do it. But Matt Judon, Jalen Wright, I think is a guy, he can't, for whatever reason, can't find the field. He's healthy.
You're not getting anything for him, a 6th round pick.
Get a 6th round pick. I mean, if you're going to get something.
Lost for a 6th.
That's right.
Career magic. He's cooking.
That's right.
He's still cooking from the grave.
Yeah, that's right. His ghost is still here, man. He still haunts the halls in Davie, Florida. But anyway, again, I appreciate everybody in the comments tuning in right now. We're having a lot of fun. Talking a lot. I mean, kind of just got to wait it out. You know, it's crazy because it's not even the off season. We're already talking about changes and trades and everything else. But it is what it is. That's the price of being a Dolphins fan. But I appreciate whoever's watching right now. Appreciate you guys watching Fins Talk today here on FTSN. Hit that like and subscribe button. DSG, you pain in the ass, troublemaker. I see you having way too much fun. Ray, you too, with the bag over your head, troublemaker. Love these guys. These guys are on every show that I'm doing, and I'll just warn you: never say you're gonna drink some leche because you never let it go, brother. Ever say I said I'm gonna have some. I love milk. I was like, I'm gonna have some leche, and all of a sudden it became some bad thing, and I was like, wait, what did I say? And that's my new gimmick now, brother. I just say I'm gonna have some leche. I don't care. So yeah, just you hear that, you see that in the comments. That's what they're coming at me for that. But everyone in the comments, appreciate you guys watching. If you're new to the channel, if you're watching this show after it's gone live, hit that like and subscribe button. Curtis, my man, where can everybody find you, your show, your Twitter, other programs that you're on?
Oh, me? Oh, sorry, I was zoning out.
Yeah. You saw the leche. You got dozed out. I hear you, brother. It's captivating. Whoa, no.
I went to. No, so I was reading. I went to college for journalism, English education, and history. But I'm a lifelong study. I've got thousands of books. You can see them over here. I know people involved in psychology and different kinds of securities and things like that. So I'm very interested in psyops, media narratives. I study economics. I got OCD and I don't sleep much. So I just study lots of stuff. So, but yeah, I've been big on psychology and philosophy. That was another thing. So, but yeah, you can find me YouTube on Ace Per Head on YouTube. I do my thing there. I try to do the Twitter thing, but that drives me crazy. It just burns my brain out. So you can find me there, but I kind of am in and out, but mostly just YouTube. And I do my thing on Ace Per Head. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how to sell myself. I suck at this, man.
Let me tell you guys, if you want to hear some great Dolphins, some great Dolphins talk and information, whatever, you catch Curtis on Ace Per Head. You go subscribe.
Do a better job than me, man.
Yeah, brother. I'll do it. And you also on the Fins Faithful podcast, you're on there as well.
Yeah. George. I forgot about that.
George, one of the best dudes out there. Great guy, puts out great stuff. So go, you guys. If you love what you heard today, if you want to hear more of Curtis and explain to him leche and everything else, go ahead. You follow him on X at Fins News. Writes for finsnews.com as well.
Oh, yeah, I do that too. I forgot about that. How do I talk about all this stuff, but I don't know how to promote myself?
I'm saying, brother. Just like, so make sure, dude, because this is one of the coolest guys, awesome guys to listen to. I've always enjoyed watching on the back end. We've communicated a little bit here and there, so happy to finally get him on with me here. We had a blast, not the last time, but guys, thank you all so much for watching. I know it's hard, but it's better a little bit because now we've had some change. Greer is gone. The Wicked Witch is gone. So, praise be, right? Like and subscribe. Most importantly, Dolphin fans, we appreciate you guys. Have a good night. Fins up, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Bobby.